Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I hope everybody had a good week. This week, I'm pretty excited about our topic because, what do we love talking about the most? Other than crafting, of course, and
December
one
daily.
little word. No. Ding, ding, ding.
Sorry, I thought I was putting it on silent, and I put it on Find My
Louder.
Phone. I put it on
Ding,
Found
ding,
My
ding,
Phone
ding, 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 ding.
because it's a phone
ding,
with
ding.
like
Oh,
little things on the sides.
She found it.
Okay.
Just
It was in her hand.
letting you know that she found her phone. Okay.
yes.
So we talk about books like
Yeah,
all the
we
time,
do.
pretty much every episode.
All the time.
We talk about books. So what's more appropriate in January to talk about a book challenge? And
That we're
Right.
starting this year.
that we're starting this year, yes. Well, okay.
Start
But-
back. Rewind. Yeah.
Yeah, we started this book we started book challenge. Kristen and I started it last year, 1 year ago. We were scrolling on TikTok, and I don't even know if that video still exists, but if it does, we'll link it. But we were scrolling on TikTok, and it was a best friend book challenge. And each month, you had to buy your best friend a book, and it fulfilled a certain prompt. Like for January, it was like a
New beginnings.
new beginning, yeah. So last year, January, it was new beginning, and then February, romance. I can't remember like the whole challenge, but each month last year, Kristen and I bought each other a new book. And then it kind of became pretty elaborate where we would add presents with the books, or we'd give each other a
we
little
did a
something.
boo basket.
Yeah,
in October.
for October, we made each other a whole basket themed around each other's books. Like Kristen gave me a basket that had all these purple things, and then the book was purple. So we kind of like did that, or we'd give each other like a little bookmark or a sticker or something that relates to the book. So it was a lot of fun. So Kristen and I decided that we're going to do it again this year, but we came up with our own parameters of the challenge. Kristen, what are we doing in January?
So for January, our theme is time travel.
Yeah, so we're doing time travel for January, arranged marriage for February, which is, romance but not.
Could be. I mean, it could be romance. It could be, an arranged marriage, like a historical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like actual like history book
Yeah.
too. So it doesn't
there-
have to be fiction.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be fiction, and like Kristen and I took it in like different ways. Like for July, it was like red. The theme was red, white, and blue. So Kristen got me a patriotic book, and then I took it literally, and I got her a book with red, white, and blue colors on it.
Yeah.
So like we took them like two completely different directions. So it's kind of like what our preference was. Let me see. March, we're doing water. So it could be water themed or water on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And April, we're doing an autobiography. And May, we're doing a book about dragons or a dragon on the cover. June is going to be fire, so about fire or fire themed. July is going to be a movie or a book that they made a movie or TV show about. What about August? What are we doing for August?
August is a classic.
Classic. Okay.
So
okay.
I told Amber, I was like, you're going to have to tell me what books you haven't read. And I was like, wait, maybe you should just tell me the ones you have read.
That's true. I need to like look at the list of like the most popular classics, and
That's where I was saying that you needed to look at my challenge that I'll talk about in a minute, because it has a lot of those on there, and you can just
like
like
all
can
the
list them off.
classics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, where are we going? September, we're doing an Earth themed book. Think Earth,
Like dirt,
Earth,
Earth, or
anything.
planet Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, Middle Earth. We've read those though. Let me see. October. Ooh, my favorite. I can't wait till October. Vampires, and I already know what book I'm gonna get Kristen.
And same, I'll need a list of what you've already read, so I
Yes,
know what
because
to not get you.
that's true. I'll
So
need to give you a
that's the
list for that
fun
one.
part of the challenge is finding a book that I know Amber hasn't read.
Yeah.
Yes, I've read so many books that I don't remember the books that I've read. And usually, like, I mark them. So, like, I'm, like, digging through my books to see, like, what I want to resell or whatever. And I'm like,
I can't
did I
remember.
read this book? Yeah. So, especially, like, the little paperbacks. November, we're going to do food.
Food fiction.
Yeah, food fiction. This one's specifically fiction. So, food
Ooh.
fiction.
Like
And
Eat,
then-
Pray, Love or Julia and Julia.
Yeah.
Julie and Julia.
There
Yeah.
you go. I was like, wait a minute, that
So
sounded wrong.
foodie book. And then December we're doing air themed.
Air.
Yeah.
So we have fire, earth,
Air,
water.
yeah, we're
okay.
doing, yeah,
You
we're
got
doing
the
all
elements.
the elements
Okay.
this
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's pretty fun. And I'm excited. Like, we had so much fun this last year.
Mhm.
I
doing
know
this
y'all
challenge.
enjoy it.
good
Y'all were
books.
excited every time because they usually exchanged their books while we were doing a recording session or like right before a recording session.
Yeah.
And so they always got excited about their books. I saw that.
Yes.
I think that would be hard for me because I don't like people to pick what I read. I do like when somebody recommends a book to me, but
Mhm.
Well,
I
and
don't
I
think-
think this is the deal, though, is that Amber's been recommending books to me forever, but I've just
but you never read
gone
them.
Yeah.
and bought them,
Yeah.
like because I just I have like impulsivity whenever it comes to books, and I
Mhm.
have like a list of books I want to read, but then I just see one and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna read that instead. And so
I feel that.
Amber
with
knew
her.
like there was stuff she wanted me to read that I had not gotten around to reading, so she kind of got to force
Right.
feed.
I know. Yeah, I did. I got to throw some books at her, like the ones that, and we've talked about this book several times. A Court of Thorns and Roses. Like, she wanted to read that so bad, and she just wouldn't buy it. So I went and gave it to her as part of this challenge.
Uh-huh.
And so that got us on like the whole ACOTAR reading
Right.
binge that we did
Yeah.
last year. And so, yeah. And so I basically would like give her like some of my most favorite books, the ones that I've been wanting her to read.
That's
all
always
the time,
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a really hard challenge for Kristen, like you said, to find books for Amber too that Amber hasn't
Yeah, that
read.
I
Right.
haven't
I
read,
think
yeah.
for me, I mean, I wouldn't say it's hard. I just think it's a fun challenge.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's almost like there's I guess two sets to the
Two
challenge.
aspects of the
Mhm.
Me
challenge.
picking the book for Amber and going and exploring, because I take my time and pick my book because I
Right.
want to make sure that I'm not getting her like the second book in the series or something she's
Yeah,
already read.
That's a big
Or
challenge
something
too.
that
Yeah.
I would want to read that maybe not necessarily Amber would want to read. So I'm like cherry picking things that I know she likes. Like I know she likes Shakespeare. I know she likes, things like Pride and Prejudice and,
Mhm.
dystopian. So I know like the things that she likes, the themes. And so I want to go for things that are similar to that or something that might be useful.
Right.
Like one of the themes, I forgot what it was. I got her like classic sci-fi stories, short stories,
Mhm.
and I thought, oh yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
very.
great because if there's something she could use for school,
I love books of short stories. I have a whole bookshelf dedicated to short stories for sure. So, yeah, it hit, and Kristen has hit the mark. Like she didn't pick a single book that I had already read.
That's
So,
good. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I do a different kind of book challenge.
yeah, tell us about your
So
challenge.
my challenge is based on a book. Oddly enough, his name was Peter Boxall, and I think I saw him on Oprah Winfrey or something, and they were talking about this book, and it was 1,001 books you must read before you die, and I've always kind of wanted to read like all the classics and stuff like that. So I thought this is a great source for uh, this challenge, for me to challenge myself to read those.
Mhm.
This is a great list. So, and someone came along, and I don't know who it was. They made a spreadsheet of it. You can't buy it anymore. But I bought this spreadsheet that has all the books, and it's got all the macros in it. So it counts up how many of the books you've read. You just go in and tick mark them off. And
Okay.
and so it
It's an
you just
immaculate spreadsheet. It's really cool.
It's really cool. And so it
Okay.
counts up what you've read, how many more books you need to read, how long it will take you to read them, or how many books you need to read a month, I believe, in order to read them all before you die.
And it's 1,001 books.
The original book was called 1,001 Books. Now there were 4 editions of this book, so over the years he would come out with a new edition of the book, and he would pull some older books out and then put some of the new books in.
Yeah.
So there was always 1,001 books in each edition, but when you add all of the books up from the 4 editions, not counting duplicates, right? There's actually 1,264 books across 4 editions.
Oh, I really want to check out your spreadsheet.
Yeah, it is really, really cool. And so I will tell you, I've been on this spreadsheet since the original edition of this thing was in 2012. That was the original book edition. And that's what the original spreadsheet was based on that I started reading
So
from.
I'm wondering, did he read all of these books, or is he just going by recommendation?
I
for
don't
some
know.
of them?
I don't know. And he probably talked about that on Oprah Winfrey. It
In
may
his
say
book?
so in the book.
Yeah.
I have not read his book. I've only used
okay.
the spreadsheet. And then he was, like I said, I saw him on Oprah.
But the
or
books
whatever.
on there are like obvious
The
ones.
books
like,
are obvious books.
Well, yeah.
And I've only managed to, of course, let me preface this by saying that I read a lot of stuff that never made it onto that list also.
Oh,
So,
sure. Me too, probably.
tons of stuff that hasn't made it on that list. So I have to stop and some of the books that I've read in the last 3 or 4 years were 3 inches thick and 9 volumes in a 9-volume set or whatever. So they take up a lot of time. But I've only read 41 of the books. That's really sad. Since 2012.
Well, some
I'm
of
still
those I
working on 'em.
imagine are like big.
They
yeah,
are. They are.
big books.
Like for instance, one of the books that I actually read was a translation of 1,001 Arabian Nights. That's a long book. It's a big book. I think he counted on there the entire works of Shakespeare because there is a published book, the entire works of
That's
Shakespeare.
yeah, I have
That
it.
is-
It's a big, thick
It's a
book.
huge, thick book, but that's one of the books. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So where they do like a paperback, mass market paperback size for each one of Shakespeare plays, vary in size. So like if you read each one of his plays in the mass market Folger Shakespeare, library size, which if you're not familiar with a Folger Shakespeare library, on one side of the page they have the translation in modern English, and on the other side of the page, so it's basically you're like reading it twice when you read it. On the other side of the page they have the original work. So the book is like the size of like a romance novel paperback, but it's the play twice in there pretty much.
Right.
So I can imagine like the big thick. So if you want to get one that's just the play, it would be a pretty thin
Right.
novella
Right.
size
Right.
book. But I mean, like a 5-act play is pretty long, like in
Mhm.
general, if you're reading it and understanding it and picturing it in your mind.
Right. Right.
And it's hard to just read a play.
It is. It is. Usually when, when I read Shakespeare was in school and we would take parts and read the parts,
Yeah.
as though we were in theater class or whatever, because it's much easier to read that way. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a few Shakespeare plays that, I mean, I've read. Well, I'm a teacher, so we're about to start reading Hamlet, and I couldn't even tell you how many times I've read Hamlet at this point. But I think like one of the Shakespeare plays that I sat down and read just for fun, that I didn't teach, that I didn't read it in school, was The Tempest. And that one's a pretty short play. And I did I did the Folger Shakespeare. I read it twice. I read it in Shakespeare English and then the same page in modern English to kind of. So, and that is kind of cumbersome, especially if you're reading it and not listening to it. But as Shakespeare said, his plays were meant to be watched, not read.
Right. Yeah. Well, this list, going back to the list of things. So, the oldest book that he has on the list is Aesop's Fables,
Oh,
which
I
was
have that book.
I've
I've
read
which
read
that.
was
that. Yeah.
written in 500 BC.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then the next one after that is Ovid's Metamorphosis,
Okay.
which was written approximately the year 8.
yeah.
I read that in
Yeah.
Latin.
I've read
So-
that too.
Yeah.
I translated
So,
it.
oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you
Yeah.
did. I remember that. So, and then on this list that I have, it only goes to like 2011. So, like I said, there's a lot of newer material that
Yeah.
I've read in the meantime, like things that I think should be on this list. What was the Harry?
Harry Potter.
No,
Harry Potter?
well, Harry Potter, not Harry Potter. Harry Potter's
It's
not on
probably
here, and
on
it was
there.
already out. Harry Potter is not on here, I don't think.
Really?
No, but the one with Prince Harry, the
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Spare.
Spare. Yes, thank you. My brain was like, phew.
You-
I think
you
that
feel
one
like
should be
that
on
one
there.
Should be on there.
Yeah, I felt like that one should be on there. And there's a lot of recent stuff that should be on there that aren't. But like you would know, like Don Quixote, the 1001 Nights, the Tale of Genji, Pilgrim's Progress.
Okay.
But like some of the books that are on there that are more recent that you would remember would be like Atonement, The Life of Pi. I think The Kite Runner was on there.
Oh, Watchmen, the comic.
yeah,
DC
yes,
comics on there.
Yeah.
the graphic novel, The Watchmen. Yeah, there's quite a bit of things on there that you would recognize, and maybe some that you wouldn't. But I'm trying to go through the ones that I've always wanted to read or that I already own, because I do own a lot of them and I just haven't read them yet. And so I kind of go through those, but I do kind of space them out with more recent releases, because there's really good stuff that I think if the list had been updated, they might have made the list, and or maybe not, I don't know. But I've read a lot of good stuff that's just not on the list because the list ended in 2012 or whenever it was. So, but it's a personal challenge for me to read as many of them as I can. I don't know that I will ever get to the 1001 of them because I read so many other things. But I'm trying. And like I said, I've read 41 of the books right now. And let me do this. According to the stats on here, and according to my age, because it tracks your age.
Oh.
I still need to read another 1,200 and something books before I finish the list. And in order to do that, I would have to read an average of 5 books a month to get through that many.
Well, that's not bad.
Well, it is for me. I
Because you
don't
have so many others you want to read.
Well, that and just the amount of time, because I rarely just sit and read because I have other things going on. I used to read like that. I would just sit in my chair and read all day, but I rarely do that now. I really only read right before I go to bed, and I'll read for an hour or so. And so if that's all I get to read, it's going to take me a long time to read a book. So
I feel you on that. Like sometimes I get in like a mode. Like one day I sat down and I was like, I'm just going to sit in my chair and read. And I read over 100 pages. And then other days
I get through 2.
I'm
Yeah,
lucky if
seriously.
I can get through 2 pages.
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't read this whole last week. And I was doing really good of reading just a little bit every day, and
Yeah.
I've been kind of
Yeah,
slacking
it's hard
lately.
when you go to like someone else's house or your routine is disrupted.
It's the routine disruption,
that's the problem.
If I
is
get to
that,
bed
like,
really, really late because I
when
had
you
a lot
travel,
to do.
it's hard
Yeah.
to, and you think, oh, I'm going to sit down and relax. It's kind of like when we went on that cruise, and I brought like 5 books with me, and I'm just like, I'm going to sit down and relax and read or whatever. And
Sensory
maybe
overload kept you from
I
reading.
know, like maybe I read like a couple of chapters
Yeah.
on that whole cruise.
Yeah. I took a book with me to Paris last fall and intended to read in Paris, and I think I read one night for like maybe 20 minutes, and I was so tired I couldn't keep my eyes open. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely understand. Like if you're too tired, or like sometimes my brain is just like all I can do is just scroll or something because I can't function.
Yeah.
So speaking of being too tired to read, so one of our friends is doing a book challenge, and it's called The Hardest Reading Challenge You'll Ever Do. And you can find it on Storygraph, which is an app. I'll circle back on that. But one of the challenges is to read a 500-page book in 24 hours.
What?
Yeah.
You would not be able to sleep.
No. Yeah.
Like
and you'll
that
have
would
to
take
eat,
me
like,
until like 3 a.m. or whatever. That like I'd have to like start it at midnight.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a 24-hour challenge. So read
You
and
have
then
to,
don't
like,
go to sleep.
Read.
So you can't stop to cook dinner or anything, because at my reading speed, it would literally take me that long. So
That'd
I
be
don't know.
interesting. Like
I doze off.
Like get some sleep, like fuel up the day before, get some sleep, and start at midnight and see how long it takes you, or how many books.
I'm like, why are we starting at the time when we're supposed to be going to bed, Amber?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like,
Well,
why
it's
don't
like
we
24
start in the
that's
morning?
true. I guess that's true. That's
You
true.
don't have to start when you
Um,
wake up in the morning. Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to start at midnight.
Yeah.
You
on
have
that
to be
day.
an accomplished speed reader.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
I know.
I
I
used to
feel like
read
that
all
would be
day. I would spend the day reading a lot, but I just can't do it anymore.
I know. I'm a completionist, so I feel like when I speed read, I'm not actually reading, and then I'm not completing the story. So I
Well,
have a
yeah.
hard time speed reading, because I
That-
can speed read, but
That is true. Like you're not really absorbing
mm-mm.
the content or the richness that literature is if you're speed reading.
Yeah. I'm reading to disappear in the story and be the character, and
Speed reading is more for like documents,
Learning.
Yeah.
Learning. Yeah.
yeah.
Like
textbooks.
go through that really quick and pick
Uh-huh.
up the basic facts. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And even when I read fast, I did not read like that. I don't like that, because in order to truly speed read, you're kind of skipping over words. You really are. You're just
Yeah.
kind of skimming.
Yeah.
And I don't
There's
like
no fun
to do
in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is no fun in that.
There is no fun in
But
that.
I like doing these challenges, and I would like to do more challenges. It's hard for me to find the time to read now. And like I said,
You have to find the perfect challenge for you.
well, and I think it just has a lot to do with where I am in my life, and you have to not watch much TV. You have to get off your phone. You have to get off your computer. It requires you pay attention to the book, and we have so many other distractions now. It's hard to do that because my phone is going off all the time, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, or I'm doing stuff on my computer, or I'm editing a podcast. That they all take time. So
I think I read more last year because I kind of dialed back on just listening to music,
yeah.
which kind of made me sad a little bit. Even though I went to several concerts last year, it just I've been trying to like put together like a playlist for the year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of those all-encompassing things, and I realized that like, I get like really intent on something and then I just like cut back on everything else.
Right.
Yeah, you hyper focus on
Well, and
something.
that's
so
kind of what I did too. And
probably why I haven't read
when
in the
I was
last week.
reading a lot, I think I quit reading a lot when I quit smoking, and that was in 2007. And what it was that I would leave my book out on the porch, and then every time I took a smoke break, I would spend 15 or 20 minutes outside reading.
Okay.
And then I'd read before bed, and I'd read first thing in the morning for a little bit or whatever. And I don't do that anymore. So and I kind of purposefully disassociated the reading from the smoking, that habit, so that I could break the smoking habit. And then it's just harder to pick back up again now that I don't go sit outside
Yeah.
to smoke.
When I started reading on the Kindle app on my phone,
I read a lot less.
I read so much more because then, I'm in a bathroom, or I'm standing in a line,
Oh, yeah.
or
That's
I'm
it's
here,
on
or
your
I'm
a
phone,
there.
lot
yeah.
easier to
Yeah.
like read at night when like
You can turn the light off.
you have the
still read
light
in the
off
dark.
and you can
Yeah.
still read in the
Now
dark.
I do like it if I'm traveling with other people and I can read in the room without having a light on,
Yeah.
and they can go to bed. But for me, I feel like reading on the Kindle makes me a lot sleepier. I fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I have it on my iPad, and that tends to make me sleepier. I can only get through a couple of pages before I fall asleep.
Huh.
But that could be what I'm reading on it too. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I oftentimes turn the light off so my husband can get some sleep,
Mhm.
so I can.
Yeah, my husband wouldn't let
Read.
me read in bed at all, so
No.
I had to read in the chair and then go to bed. Yeah,
Now you can read anywhere you want.
and that may be part
And
of why I
that's the
don't read
nice
as much
part,
either,
yeah.
because I'm in bed and then I'm falling asleep.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I know, and that's also too, like, if you're used to scrolling on your phone before you go to sleep, then reading is on your phone is also introducing that. Oh, okay, it's time to wind down and go to sleep.
Well,
So,
and you, I don't know, and then
Yeah.
you've got the blue light issue, and I don't know,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody has their preference.
Yeah.
on what
Mhm.
they want to read.
Yeah, I like the smell of books.
It's
I really like books.
I mean, I do like the holding the book, but
Mhm.
I also like the Kindle Unlimited. That if I can't go and physically buy a book and it's on Kindle Unlimited, then I
Then
can
you can
read
get
it.
it. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then if I want it later on, I can still get it.
definitely though, the Kindle Unlimited, the books that are free, the quality of the books
Sometimes.
sometimes aren't that
Sometimes,
great.
yeah.
Like, I will say, like, Ruby Dixon, she's a great author. I really like her writing style, but I mean, her books are small,
Yeah.
except for the
Mhm.
ones that she gets, published on paper. But, her little snack books, they're really, really short, under 150-page books sometimes. So,
I don't think I've read a book that was
and
less
there's-
than 150
I know,
pages
right?
in
And
years.
then there's a few other authors that I've come across where I'm just like, wow, that was, probably should have been edited one more time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a series that I read. It was like called the Plated Prisoner series, which is funny because they've published all of these books now, because of Book Talk or whatever, and they're just like in these big editions, and I'm just like, people like these books enough to buy them in these big editions, because I thought the writing was really subpar.
Huh.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the books, yeah, that you can get on Kindle Unlimited. And then I do like that they have like some of the books that I read when I was younger and no longer have that book. If I want to read it again, I can find it on
Right.
Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is one thing so I do pay the money per
How,
month.
how often do you read a book again? I used to do it a lot. I don't do it
Oh.
at all anymore.
Lately there have been so many books that like I've been wanting to read, that like the want to read list is so daunting
Yeah.
that I don't go back. The only
that's
time
kind of me.
that I really that I really read more than once is if like I'm reading a series
Mhm.
and it's been like a year or two and they've come out with a new book, then
Mhm.
I'll go
right.
back
Yeah.
and reread that series. Kind of like the Hunger Games. Like
Right.
every time they
Yeah.
come out with a new book, I'll go back and reread the series.
I've only read 2 books twice in my life.
Yeah.
To
What?
Kill a
Yeah.
Mockingbird. And I mean, I had to because school.
School.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other book, well, I guess 3 then, because I read The Outsiders again and The Giver. So, okay, there's 2.
Those are
Also.
all like I
Um,
couldn't even tell you how many times I've read The Giver.
Right. And then, okay, so I guess that's 4 books. And then the other one is a Ruby Dixon book because I read it on the Kindle and then I
Uh-huh.
got her autographed copy. And so I read the actual autographed copy that I have.
I've
That's
Yeah.
it.
read.
I don't like to waste my time rereading.
I've
books.
read. We've talked about this multiple times. One of my favorite books is Shogun by James Clavell, and I've read that one multiple times just because I love the story. And also I have read. I'm trying to think. The Thornbirds. I cannot remember the author's name right offhand. I've read that one a couple of times. That one was they're like love tragedy
Yeah.
type things, and I think I read Larry Niven's The Ring World more than once because another book followed up in the series, and it had been so long since I read it that I reread that. But I'm getting ready to read another book recently. So I don't know. I just don't very often go back and read.
Right, we were talking about going back and rereading Wicked.
Right. Yeah.
I
I
would read that
tried.
one again.
Yeah.
Well, I really tried to go back and reread it because when the movie came out,
Yeah.
but I couldn't.
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't
there
get
are
to it
some
before the movie
things
came
that
out
I
either.
read multiple times when I was a kid. Probably mainly because I
Oh,
didn't have a
now-
lot of books, so
now,
I
when
would
I was
go
a
back
kid,
and reread.
when I was a
but-
kid, that's another story. So
Yeah.
I did reread all of the Little House on the Prairie books multiple times, and that started with me
Mhm.
reading through the entire series, and then starting over and reading through the entire series, and then I did it. I don't know how many times as a child.
Yeah.
And then when Kristen was young, I read them all to her. And then when my son was young, I read them all to him as well. So I don't know how many times I've read through that
For
series.
me, it was probably all of L.J. Smith's book, the author of the Vampire Diaries.
Uh-huh.
I've probably read them, all of her books, multiple times. Now, as an adult, I tried to go back and read all of those books again. And while they're still good books, I have changed.
Right.
And so and I still appreciate the stories and everything, but I'm just like, okay. I definitely feel differently nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I have tried to like go back and read, some of my childhood favorite books, and sometimes it's just really hard because it's like, okay, well, I don't want to ruin the, I guess, like the illusion of like, oh, this was such an awesome book.
You know what? That's the exact way I feel about Twilight, because when
Oh, I'm not gonna go back and reread
I know,
that.
because I think as an adult, like, because when I read it, I was an adult, but I was so young. I was basically a teenager adult.
Yeah,
I
you
was
were
like
still.
in my early 20s.
Well, I mean,
So,
yeah, we were in our 20s when it came out.
yeah. So, and now that I think about it, I'm like, well, like I kind of want to go back and reread them, because Raina and I like love vampire stuff, and I thought, oh, that'd be fun. We can read them at the same time or whatever. And then I was like, I think if I go back and read them, I'm gonna hate them, because
tried
I'm gonna
because
be
it's so
reading that
badly
as
written.
an adult.
And you
Yeah.
know that
You've read way more books since then, and
Mm-hmm.
you go back and I tried to go back and reread it, and it's just so badly written.
Well, and it's not even that, but I mean there is that, but there's also the better. You look at Bella Swan and you're like, girl, don't do it. Just
Yeah.
it's like have some dignity, or yeah.
Yeah, and then now that like when I go back and read teeny books like that, I'm just like, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have some self-respect. Have
Exactly.
Don't throw your life away, Bella.
Yeah.
This is coming from somebody that has been
I've been
engaged.
throwing my life away for 40 years now.
Right. Like this is like from somebody, from me who's been divorced, and engaged multiple times before that, and now newly married again. So it's just like, yeah, you're throwing your life away. You're only 16,
Yeah.
and you're wanting to marry like 100-and-something-year-old vampire.
Yeah. And you have nothing in common, and
Yeah.
And he's controlling.
very.
Yeah. So that's why I don't go back and reread books,
Yeah.
because there's so much in the world. There's so much to explore.
Mhm.
And
There is so much.
I have like this, what if this is the last book that I ever read? Every time I pick up a book, that's kind of the way I feel like it, because
That's a good way to look at it.
yeah. And honestly, like, I even felt bad looking back, a couple of years ago. I spent the entire year reading Ruby Dixon. Like, I read like 40 of her books, and I read like 3 other authors that year, just like a couple of books.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I kind of wasted a whole year only reading like one genre.
Well, that was kind of me
And-
reading the Expanse series, because there was
Yeah.
like 8 or 9 books. I can't remember how
Yeah.
many books. And they're like,
And that's the way
3
I feel
inches
about
thick
Outlander,
or whatever.
because I'm like, I want to go explore other worlds, but I'm stuck
Just-
in Outlander.
Yeah.
Well,
But
you
I'm
gotta
so
like
close.
put it on you gotta shelf it for a while. That's how I felt about the ACOTAR series.
Yeah.
That's
You've
and that's
gotta
what
shelf
I did
it
with
for
the
a
Expanse.
while, and then go dip your toe in another world, and then you can go
and then
back.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I did with the Expanse.
That's I've been like doing really good with the Red Rising series. Like I'll read one book and then I'll go and do something else, and then I'll come back and I'll read the next book. Like unlike when I did the Wheel of Time series, I immersed myself in that whole world for like 9 months,
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like you're doing with Outlander.
Yeah. It's taken me a whole year, and I'm almost done. I think I have like 2 more books left of Outlander.
And then you're like, I'm not going to
See-
read any historical fiction for a while.
Well, and see,
Right?
I would like to read that series, but I'm just like, oh, I don't want to get sucked into another series. So
Yeah.
I'm already sucked into Scythe, and I haven't read.
That's such a good series,
is.
though.
I have that one sitting there. It's on my to be read.
I think recently I tried to go back because there was a vampire romance series that I started reading, I guess, when I was in high school. I ran across some of the books, and then I ended up like buying all of the books, and some of them were out of print at the time. This was before now you can get everything on
Right.
Kindle and everything like that. And so I had to bid on eBay and try to get all the books and stuff
That's
like that
annoying.
to get the whole series to be able to read it from the beginning. And so now it's on Kindle Unlimited, although I do have all the physical copies, but until recently all of my books were packed up in boxes. So I tried to go back and reread that series since it was on Kindle Unlimited, and I think I got halfway through the first book and I was like, you know what? I've already read this series, and I probably she started coming out with new books on the series, but I just don't know if I can read that whole series again.
To
Yeah.
get
I think
caught back up.
to get caught back up. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a problem. Like I cut off of a series for a few years, and then I'm like, well, I need to continue reading the books. Like with the they just came out with a movie for the Ugly series
Mm-hmm.
on Netflix several months ago, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go reread the books. And I tried because I didn't read the last book in the series,
Uh-huh.
and I tried, and I just couldn't.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't pick it back up, and I felt differently because I think I read that series probably about 15 years ago when it first came out. So I feel differently now.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Well, and
right.
it also is different experience when you already know what's going to happen in the end too.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I
Maybe
would
that's
never
why I can't
read.
pick it
I
back
would
up.
never read A Court of Thorns and Roses again because you already know
Yeah.
what's going to happen in the next book because you already read it. So
And I had to
why
pull
would you
my teeth to
revisit
get
that?
through that book. And those of you that are like a huge fan of the first A Court of Thorn and Roses book, y'all are like turning over in your graves, book talk, whatever. Oh, that was the best book. No, I'm sorry. It's so badly written. I would definitely not. I mean, Stephanie Meyer, I say Twilight was badly written. This one is worse. This one is worse than Twilight, right, Tristan?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
y'all
I would
have said
reread
enough
Twilight
stuff
before
and
I
given,
reread
yeah.
that.
Y'all have given enough
it
examples
has so
of it.
much potential.
I was intrigued by it, and y'all have given enough examples when you talk about it that I don't want to read it.
Don't,
Yeah, don't waste
don't,
your
I
time.
won't.
don't get.
I will not.
It's this generation's Twilight.
Yeah.
Like, don't get.
Oh my
sucked
God,
in.
it is. You're so
yeah,
right.
don't get sucked in. Everybody's obsessed with it right now. Don't get sucked in. What did Susan have to do not finish it twice?
Yeah.
She just could
She
not
DNF'd
read
it.
it.
Twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you were talking, Kristen, about
yes.
Susan's book.
Yeah, so
challenge.
it's called the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, and she found it on Storygraph, which is an app you can get on your phone, and you use it to track the books that you've read.
And it does make some graphs and some
exactly.
Cool, it does
the
some
whole
really
point
cool
is that
things.
it makes a little pie chart based on the genres that you read for the year. Versus just having a list. So
Right.
there's
It's
lots of
kinda
different
cool.
ways to track your book. So I've played with it a little bit. I'm notorious for forgetting to actually put the start and finish dates.
I do that really bad.
The way
too.
that I track the books that I'm reading is I take a screenshot of the book or a photograph of the book, and then I have a folder in my phone
Yeah.
of the photos so that I remember what book and it's when I start it, I take the picture. So then I know when I started it, that's basically the day that I ended the previous book or the day I decided I'm going to DNF a book. So,
Yeah.
And I know which ones I didn't finish.
I used to write on the book, like when I started it and
Yeah.
when but now that I read half of my books digital, I just keep
Yeah,
a
I
running
keep mine
checklist
in
the best
library
way.
on my
thing.
phone,
I use
Yeah.
library thing.
I have
to do
another
mine.
app too that I use. Or not an app. I actually have a book that I purchased online that is a book tracker and has some challenges in it,
Yeah, I have one of those.
book bingo kind of things. And there's one that's got a letter of the alphabet, and you read a book and fill it in. So
what's that app? You need to send it to me.
so the app is called Storygraph.
Storygraph.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we'll share that on Heard It on a Podcast. And then the book that I purchased, I bought it on Amazon, so we'll share the link to that. It was actually one that you found on TikTok, and you sent it to me, Amber. Um,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
have
200 books in a year.
I
Yeah.
have that one too. I just haven't started it yet.
Yeah.
I need to start it this year.
So I wasn't going to just try to make it all in the year, the 200 books. And I try not to duplicate the books. So the one page that I'm working on right now is a bracket, well, for last year. So I did the bracket for the 12 books that we finished for the book challenge.
Right.
And so each book for each month, the Amber gave me, January all the way through December, I put them in the bracket. And so they competed.
Uh-huh.
So I made a challenge out of the other challenge, of books that Amber gave me. So I went in and each time I finished one of those in the bracket, I got to choose who won out of the end. So I haven't shared the results of the winnings yet, because I actually am about 2 books behind. So
okay.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Well, we started at the end of January, and then Amber introduced like 5 books in it that were in a series. So, then of course I was like, well, I need to read the other books in the series. So I kind of like strayed off of the path. So my challenge was actually to like stay. And then one of the books she gave me was like 800 pages long. So, because she's evil. I'm over here giving her short stories, and she's giving me like
I'm
tomes.
sorry.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's a really good book, though.
Right,
you just have to start it.
Yeah. So, I'll update on my progress on that, but I'll share the thing. But the story graph is really fun. So, anyways, on our friend's hardest reading challenge, there's some really great suggestions, like a book in every state. So cover the 50 states. Some of the challenges, like one that I was just looking at the other day, was pick a book that has 3 blurbs on the back by other authors, like, oh, this book was so great, or it was chilling by Stephen King, right? So then you go and you read a book from those authors. So in that one, you end up getting 4 books read by that one challenge. And basically it's this long list of challenges. There's one for every color, and she has one for every
they start with the alphabet.
Letters, last name, last letter of the author's last name in the alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
So that one's even more challenging, to find. And you can't duplicate any of the books either. And these are all in the challenge. And I asked my friend, I was like, tell me what, how many of these books are actually in the list. She hadn't even calculated the total number of books, because in some of those, like that one book on the challenge has 4 books in total.
Yeah.
So, she didn't even know how many books were on this challenge. It just has to be over 200 books.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I know some of them were like multi book challenges, and then there were some that were like, I remember one of them. It was like read a classic and then read a retelling of the classic.
Yes, like a rewritten story.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was such a great discussion. I've got a lot of. Now I'm going to be looking at these apps and like downloading this app and looking at these book challenges on the app and everything, and we'll have lots to talk about with Susan in the future. But so we want to hear from our readers. Let us know what book challenges you have done, and if you're interested in starting a book challenge, and we will link all of these challenges. And if I can find that video that we originally saw, I know I saved it. Hopefully it hasn't been deleted. We'll link that as well.
There you go. Yeah. On
the Heard It on the podcast. And then I will link I know I say I'm going to write a blog, and I don't write a blog, but I will put the list of the books that Kristen and I did on our book challenge this last year, and the list of my 40th birthday challenge that I recently did as well.
Ooh, that'll be good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So y'all check out our blog, check out our Facebook, like, subscribe, share with your friends.
Yeah.
We love
please.
our listeners. Send us an email, send us a comment, let us know about some book challenges that we need to try. And what are we talking about next week, guys?
Next week is men's health.
Okay. Yeah. So we're talking about men's health next week, and we have a guest speaker. It's
Yes,
been
we
a
do.
while, but we have a guest speaker. So come check us out
Yep.
and check out our guest speaker.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great episode.
It will
will.
be
It'll be
a
a really
great
good episode.
episode.
You need to come.
I'm
listen.
excited about having a guest speaker because
Me
it has
too.
been a while.
It has. It has.
Since our first or second season?
Second
Second
season.
Second
two. Yeah,
season,
when
we had
Ashley.
Ashley for a few episodes. And yeah, we haven't had a guest speaker since. So it's about time, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, we'll check you next week.
Bye.